week in economics on the 1st of January 2016. Numbers man here. A happy and productive new year to all. 2016 will be a very interesting year. It is an election year, and of course, in election years, normally very little in terms of innovative economic policy occurs, but this is not the ordinary time. We'll start off with the latest unemployment filings. We'll go to that. This is from the Department of Labor. They put this out. Let me just see where we are here. This was released the last day of the year, the 31st. This is seasonally adjusted unemployment insurance claims. We watch those to see exactly where we are. In the week ending the 26th of December, the advance figure for seasonally adjusted initial claims was 287,000, an increase of 20,000 from the previous week, on revised level of 267,000. The 4-week running average, this is actually what we look at, 277,000, an increase of 4,500 from the previous week, on a revised average of 272,500. The advanced seasonal adjusted insured unemployment rate was 1.16 from the week ending December 19th, unchanged from the previous week. The advanced number for seasonally adjusted insured unemployment during the week ending December 19th was 2,198,000, an increase of 3,000 from the previous week. Level there, the 4-week running average was 2,220,250, an increase of roughly 9,250 there, under 10,000 there. It's a little nice little graphics. Won't get to the unadjusted data, but looking at some of the claims, initial claims, roughly in this 287,000, that was initial claims on December 25th. And on December prior year, we'll look at that, is 293,000. So a little bit of a difference there from last year. That would have been 2014. And let's see what else we have here in this little bag. Federal workers, 1,381. That would be on December the 9th. Last year it was 1,556. A little less there. Newly discharged veterans, 1,205. So it's been basically around that average. In 2014, it would have been 1,714 there. Let's see what else we have here. Week ending December the 12th, that's the last one we have. Regular state, 2,282,876. That would be this year, or last year, 2015. In 2014, it had been 2,474,688. And some of the chart here, federal workers for the year, 14,969. It was 18,000 in 2014. So we look at some of these state claims here. This is state claims not seasonally adjusted. We won't really go into them. We just give some. In Alabama, for instance, the advance was 3,110. Alaska 1,309. Arizona 2,448. In California 43,492. We go to some of the largest states here. District of Columbia very low, 538 as initial claims there. This is for December 26. In the state of Kentucky, coal miners there mining 9,677, one of the higher ones for a state that particular size. You can understand the energy levels now. Interesting enough, in Louisiana, roughly 1,800 claims were filed there. 11,000 in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, relatively high. 17,000 in Michigan. Michigan had long been in the hole. Not too bad for Michigan, given where they were. And New York, much better than California, 19,000. That's initial claims are there. Let's see. We'll give Oklahoma is relatively low at All State. 2008, 32. Ohio, 16,861. And we'll give, let's see, we'll go to Texas, 11,000 there. Not as high as it could be. Washington State, very interesting out in Washington State. Also 11,000 claims filed in Washington State. So roughly we had, let's see, the total 346,062. So if we look at in another column here, this was the initial claims filed. Now we look at the insured unemployed, the advance there in Alabama, 21,000 people. We'll just hit these states as we move along here. 338,000 in California. In Florida, let's see, 37,000. So you get a better picture there. Those the figure I gave before were just initial claims. Georgia fairly hard hit there, 30,000. Illinois, 129,000 people there are covered by unemployment insurance. Now those are just the ones that have the unemployment insurance. In New Jersey, 103,000 there. In New York, 170,000. In Ohio, 75,000 is covered under the program. In Texas, 162,000 covered on unemployment insurance. In Washington State, 62,000 covered out there. That's a fairly high rate for that state. Now Wisconsin's also fairly heavily hit, 49,000 there. So again, that is 2,185,160, sort of highlighting some of the states as to where they are. I'll look at Iowa here, only because a lot of political activity in the state of Iowa. Let's see, Iowa, 15,000. Okay. Now let's see, what else do we have here? We've already looked at adjusted claims, unadjusted initial claims for week ending there, layoffs in manufacturing, and it's by state here. 2,000 in Virginia, in the state of Illinois, almost 2,000 in construction, etc. Iowa had a rather large layoff there for Iowa, 1,128. And in California, fewer layoffs in agriculture, forest, Forestry, fishing, and the hunting industry. In Michigan, fewer layoffs in manufacturing. Pennsylvania, fewer layoffs in construction, transportation, warehousing, manufacturing industry. And in New York, fewer layoffs in transportation, etc. I always like to look at the deeper dive in what we usually get. Initial claim. Initial claim is a claim filed by an unemployed individual after a separation from an employer. The claimant requests a determination of basic eligibility for the unemployment program. And some this is in the technical notes here. We'll put seasonally adjusted annual revisions over the course of a year. The weekly changes in the level of initial claims and continual claims undergo regular occurring fluctuations. So that's basically where they are. Let me get to Reuters. The economists polled by Reuters had forecast the claims rising to 270,000. That was last week. A little more than that, but not as much. This is the highest since July. Filing there initially at a 42-year low. So effectively, you're seeing lower rates of unemployment insurance. Partially is that a lot of states have changed their laws, and because of the change in laws, fewer people are eligible. Factors influencing the number 4-week moving average, while analysts follow closely because this is what the volatility there, no doubt about it. Claims have been below 300,000. That's a threshold associated with a buy-into labor market for 43 consecutive weeks. That's almost a year, the longest stretch since the 70s. The claims reported show the number of people still receiving benefits after an initial week of aid rose roughly 3,000. 2.220 million. In other words, you still have 2 million people out there that are eligible for unemployment benefits, which themselves are very hard to obtain in many states, and also the duration of those benefits have been themselves the states have been very draconian, to say the least. Look at the Apple shares here, and then we'll go to Apple shares to close with the worst performance since 2008. Apple on track to finish the year down 4%. This is it from Reuters. It's the first down year since 2008. Shares have fallen about a fifth of their value since touching a high of 134,000. Let me do this again. $134.54. That was on the 28th of April, and down 17.5% now. Declines this year wiped out about $57 billion in Apple market capitalization, as much as fellow Dow component DuPont is currently worth about, according to this, $590 billion. Heading into the last days of trading, well, we won't get into that, but we will in a minute here. The longer term, Apple remains a boost for the index. There, it rose 11.39%. Without Apple, it would have risen 10.59%. So, that's roughly a little less than 1% there for the S&P index. Carl Icahn is in the mix here. He's a billionaire investor. Says he owns 52.76 million shares as of September, and is roughly worth $5.82 billion. there. And Wall Street basically likes the stock, according to Reuters. Of the 49 brokers, 41 have a positive rating, and none have a hold sell rating. Analysts have a medium price there of $145, implying a gain of nearly 40% from the current level. So the 145, will Apple see 145 next year? Is roughly about $10 more than what Apple has. Apple has come to reality. And as we look to 2016, what will happen to the other similar tech stocks out there? It's long been our tech that many of the tech stocks, including Google, are vastly overpriced. If you look at their market share, and market share for these companies, Google, Apple, is global and not in North America. So thus it will depend obviously on the penetration of their products in such places as India and China. And of course, with Apple, their phones take on the Android system, and Google is there. And of course, the heavy commodification of those particular items, and also different business models for the so-called headset carriers. Now AT&T has joined T-Mobile and effectively eliminating the free phones, or the heavily subsidized phones on a 2-year contract. They are now selling data services and not trying to attract people with phones. So the $400 or $500 or $600 phone is that, but they do have they have went back to quote unquote the old installment plan. Let's look at a labor agreement here. Go to Bloomberg. This is at Delta, the only union left with the pilots, seeking the pilots union or association, whatever they are, 22% increase for next year. The union representing, this is Delta Airlines Inc. Pilots want a raise of almost 40%, compounded over 3 years, attempting to reverse some of the pay and benefit cuts adopted in the 2000s. The union cites the carrier's profits, saying it has requested a 22% raise for 2016, followed by a 7% raise the following 2 years. That's according to the Airline Pilots Association. Not really a union, but an association. They are typically some of the strongest labor relations in the industry. Almost 2/3 of the pilots over summer voted against the deal, taking a more aggressive stand. This will be very interesting for 2016. We applaud the fact that Delta Airlines is a clear leader in the industry in total revenue, marketing, and profitability. They have 13,000 members. Delta did not rise to the ashes of bankruptcy to post successive record-breaking years of profit without sacrifices of its employees, especially its pilots. Well, the other employees also sacrificed even more. They lost their unions. Delta pilots would probably top the industry scale if they get the raises they want. The American airline pilots currently have the highest base pay for 2016 amongst the carriers there. This is Kib Darby, as a pilot consultant who tracks the pay. The captain of a 77 with 12 years experience makes $293 an hour at American, that's according to his, compared with $272,000 at Delta, $270,000 at United. First time we had seen this. Would push the above $300 an hour, that if they got the 22% raise. Dell enjoyed a long period of inexpensive fuel, robust demand for business travel, and that's where the money is. Profits adjusted for some items is expected to reach almost $1 billion, $916 million in Q4. That's according to Bloomberg, compared with $649 million a year earlier. Delta reported a $1.1 billion loss for 2009, 2 years after exiting bankruptcy protection. So they come a long way from bankruptcy protection. The pilots took a series of pay cuts starting on 9/11, including a 32.5% cut in 2004. That was before the Depression. So once again, Delta Airlines has continuously been in the mix, as one would say. Let me just, while we're here at Bloomberg, to see what else is going on here. Back to oil has been a continual story, and we'll never get away from it. This is Iraq said it exported 1.097 billion barrels of oil. That's in 2015, generating $49 billion from sales, according to the industry. It sold 99.7 billion barrels of oil in December, generating 2.93 billion thereafter, selling a record 100 billion barrels in November. That's from the oil industry there. The country sold an average at an average price of $44.74 a barrel in 2015. Iraq, with the world's fifth biggest oil reserves, needs to keep increasing crude oil output because of obviously lower prices. So that is their business model. OPEC's second largest crude oil producer is facing a slowdown in investment due to low oil prices, no doubt about that. The nation's output will start to decline in 2018. That's according to Morgan Stanley. They're revising its forecast for higher production every year to 2020, roughly 4 years from a date. So the oil industry moves on. Of course, in the U.S., they have now abandoned their prohibition of exports of crude oil. Let me just look at banking jobs here. This is also on Bloomberg. Shrinking banks, thousands of jobs lost. 500,000 bank jobs have vanished since the Depression in 2008. There's a chart here. We'll have to put it up there. Staff reduction. Some of the world's biggest banks are far from over. Deutsche Bank, the German bank, which has held employment close to its 2010 peak, plans to slash 26,000 positions by 2008. Announced cuts in Q4, 47,000 following 52,000 job losses in the first 9 months of 2015. This would bring the aggregate figure since 2008 to about 600,000. That's according to Ucredit SPA. It would eliminate, 18,000 there positions. Citi Incorporated, which has reduced its workforce by more than a third, plans to eliminate at least 2,000 more jobs. So in other words, the banking industry continues to contrast, one way of putting it. And we'll be following this pretty closely to see exactly where some of these jobs slashing, and hopefully we'll find some studies to see where these people have disappeared actually from. We'll go now to the BBC and round up the international part of our New Year's Day broadcast here, and see exactly where we are here. Shares in London lost 5% during 2015. This is from the BBC. And the 100-share index ended the year lower than it started for the fourth time in the past 10 years. A traditional half day there, New Year's Eve, the index closed at 6242 there. Was down 32 points. Or 5/10 for the day, down 5% over the start of the year. The market, due to preponderance of international gas, oil, and mining shares in the 100 index. Businesses had been hit by huge drops in commodity prices. The FTSE 100 index also ended the year 12% below its record in April of this year. It's 7,104. Steve Clayton, he's at Hargreaves Lansdowne, said it has been a fairly polarized year. Weakness in share prices have been the second half phenomena. According to figures from the Bloomberg Financial Services, a £100 investment to start a year in its broad FTSE All Shares Index, which covered all publicly listed companies, would now be worth 2% less. Well, if the dividends from those shares had been reinvested, then the stockholder would still have the same value of their holding, rise by 1.4 the past year. This reflects the fact that income from share dividends, this is in the BBC, in the UK, across the whole UK stock market currently offers investors a yield of 3.5% a year. If you had been trying to live off your interest, you would have been living from hand to mouth, as from Mr. Clayton there. And shares in the FTSE 250 index, that's covering the biggest shares, rose by 8.5%. So you've done better if you were in the FTSE 250 index. By comparison, only 25% of the FTSE 100 revenue comes from the UK. Again, Clayton points out that investors relying on dividend income might suffer a string in the tail from the fall in revenues faced by big oil, gas, and mining. They are the traditional dividend payers. That used to be a stratagem when I did stock timing, that sort of stuff, that you would look to the dividend. In fact, you used to see on late night TV in the U.S. commercials about companies that paid dividends, and normally the income on the value of stock didn't rise significantly, but you did get your dividend, and there's still those companies out there. These sort of companies, let's see, they've been traditionally big dividend payers. They make up 13%. This is of the FTSE All Shares Index. Their dividend yields are running high at the moment, Clayton said. So, in other words, the old adage, there's still money to be made if you can find it. Let's look across here. I will go to Brazil. Brazilian real weakens again. Economic troubles there weakens to 4 reais to the dollar. In Brazil, Brazilian currency, the real, has weakened again in trading against foreign exchanges. It fell on Wednesday by nearly 2% against the U.S. dollar to 3.95. So far this year, the Brazilian currency has dropped in value by 33%, the weakest performance of any major currency in 2015. Meanwhile, there have been almost continuous political turmoil. We talked a little bit about that on Numbers Man, and once we get our foreign affairs program going, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Brazil. So Brazil continues, like many markets, having some problems, no doubt about that. Oprah has boosted Weight Watchers. Well, let's first get to China, and this is on the 31st. Chinese shares in a turbulent year down. The Hang Seng Index closed at 0.2% at 21,914.4, while the Shanghai Composite ended down 0.4% at 3,539.18. The index was 9.4% higher for the year, making it one of the best performing markets globally. And we're talking about the Hang Seng, I'm assuming. Yeah, we are. Investors were also holding off ahead of manufacturing data due out on Friday. Economists expect the manufacturing survey to show factory activity shrinking again in December. Several markets closed early on New Year's in Hong Kong and Australia, while Japan and South Korea were closed for public holidays. Oil, of course, in Sydney continues to weigh there. There, 200 closed down 0.2 to 5295.9. That's 5 billion, but lost more than 2% over the year. That's in Sydney. And sliding oil prices hovered around 11-year low, capping gains in energy-related stocks. This is Australia across the region. Australia is very big in mining there in Australia, and the mining industry worldwide. We did a special on Bostonred on the miner. Has been diminishing, so that's one of the things to look at there. And let's see, we'll wrap up this part with Oprah and Weight Watchers. She's taken a position, as they would say. She bought a 10% stake in the company for $43.2 million. And she's evidently on that diet plan. She's been on many diet plans. Her stake is now, and when did she buy that stake? In October. Her stake is now worth more than $148 million, according to this. It's a dieting company. The jump in shares since Miss Winfrey's involvement, the company stock is still down 8% from a year ago. And the founder, of course, had died, and she does still have star power. The company also announced changes to its weight loss plans to fit in with the Oprah Winfrey thing of healthy and happy living. Well, supposedly healthy and happy living will be the marker. We'll do the market data here. Of course, the markets were basically closed on Friday, some I suppose half day, and a lot of red. The Global 30 on Friday, BBC Global 30, was at 5063.32. These are Thursday for the most part here. We'll do the FTSE All Shares. It was down in the negative 16.75. If we do the 100, it was down 31.73. So we'll skip around here a little bit. The DAC was down 117.13 there, and in Paris they were down 40.08. In Brussels they were down 33 .72 in Madrid, 97.70 in Zurich, 64.92 in Moscow. That was on Thursday. Yeah. The DAC was incidentally on Wednesday. I don't know if we got that right or not. In Amsterdam on Thursday they were down 4.37. We get this straight. In Moscow on Wednesday they were down 2.02. In Johannesburg on Friday they 294.82. In Bombay they were in the green on Friday at 43.36, and in Karachi they were at 419.49. In Lahore 53.02. In Colombo 23.87 on Thursday. The others were on Friday. In Colombo on Thursday they were at 23.87, and on Wednesday in Tehran, a good day for them, 221.70. In Sydney on Thursday they were down negative 21.80. The Nikkei on Wednesday 51.48. The Hang Seng at 32.25 on Thursday. In Shanghai on Thursday they were down 33.69 in the negative there. In New York on Thursday they were also down 178.84. The Nasdaq was down 58.44 on Thursday. The Merc out in Chicago was down 19.42 in the negative there. And in San Pablo on Wednesday they were also down 304.01. And in Mexico on Thursday, San Pablo was Wednesday, Mexico was 33.87. We'll get the commodities, the year-end commodities, where they ended up. And we'll see here. Crude oil futures, $37.28. And let's get to Brent crude on Friday. Today, $37.28. And the spot on Thursday, it was at $26.78. Today, we have, even give the times here, 7:45. West Texas Intermediate was at $37.04. T-Boone Pickers jumping for joy. He was $15 a barrel oil at one time, but it's basically about the same, depending on which dollars you have. I'll have to look into that. Nonetheless, very interesting situation here, how Brent crude has usually been a benchmark, Norwegian oil, and they're trying to boost Texas Intermediate and use it as quote-unquote a benchmark. And if you notice, they're both at $37. Very interesting situation there, what is going on with the new export law in the U.S. Gold, $1,062.25. This is on the Forex. Dubai gold, we haven't heard from Dubai today, and we'll take a look back at them in a minute here. On the Euronext live futures, cocoa up $13, Robusta coffee up $14, white sugar $3.50. The Bloomberg Commodity Index, that's on Thursday. Those were on Thursday too. 47 cents. Was up there. It's at $78.56. Our 0.6 there. So in other words, their commodity Bloomberg's index is up. And what were we looking at here? Oh, we were looking at Dubai futures. I don't know what we got on them, if anything at all. I mean, you've got nothing. As they say, they were not a home for this. And I'll look at the Bloomberg index. Anyway, nonetheless, this will do it for us. For those in business, next week, the first full week of 2016, a productive week to consumer. The final numbers are not in on the holiday shopping sprees, but basically the first few days were good, and then it sort of lagged behind. We don't have the final numbers. We'll have those, no doubt, on the next program, which will be the second program of the year. Again, Happy New Year to everyone. Good day.